The last thing I heard, before they put me under, was my sister's voice in the hallway. She's not going to remember any of this anyway. I remember everything. My name is June Whitmore. I'm 32 years old, and I'm a forensic accountant. I know what fraud looks like. I've testified in federal court about it. What I never expected was to come home from a medically induced coma and have to open a case file on my own family. 8 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with a severe aortic dissection, a tear in the main artery of my heart. The kind of thing that kills you in the parking lot if you don't get to a hospital in time. I made it, barely. 3 surgeries in 11 days, 2 weeks in the ICU, and another 2 weeks in a step-down unit where I had enough awareness to hear conversations but not enough strength to participate in them. The doctors called my recovery remarkable. My sister called it inconvenient. She is 14 months older than me. We were close once, the way sisters are when they're both fighting the same difficult household. My mother left when we were young, so it was just us, our father, and whatever woman he happened to be seeing that year. My sister and I shared a bedroom until I was 16. We shared secrets longer than that. I thought we were the kind of siblings who would be close forever. The kind who call each other on random Tuesday afternoons for no reason. The kind who are listed as emergency contacts and mean it. What I didn't know, what I had no reason to suspect, was that she had spent the last 3 years quietly resenting everything I'd built. I left our hometown at 22 with a degree, $43 in a checking account, and a car that needed new brake pads. I got my CPA license, then my forensic accounting certification, then a position at a mid-size firm in Portland that paid me enough to stop eating gas station food for dinner. I bought a condo at 28. A real one, not a starter unit, a 2-bedroom in the Pearl District with original hardwood floors and a storage unit in the basement that most tenants used for bikes and ski equipment. I used mine differently. That storage unit is why this story ends the way it does. My sister stayed home. That wasn't a judgment, it was her choice. She got married young, had 2 kids young, built a life there. But somewhere between my first promotion and my second, something shifted in how she talked about my life. The comments got smaller and sharper. Must be nice. That was her phrase. Must be nice to travel for work. Must be nice to have a savings account. Must be nice to not have anyone depending on you. She said it like having no one depending on me was a character flaw rather than just a different life. I never argued with her about it. I sent birthday presents for my niece and nephew. I flew home for Thanksgiving. I thought we were fine. The morning of my collapse, I had just gotten back from a run. I made coffee. I sat down at the kitchen table to look at something on my laptop, and the pain hit me like a wall had fallen on my chest. I called 911. I don't remember what I said. The paramedics told me later I stayed conscious until they got the IV in and then I was gone. My sister was listed as my emergency contact. She was the one they called. When I came back, and I mean that literally, the way you come back from somewhere very far away, it was day 19, a Tuesday. There was a nurse adjusting something near the window, and I watched her for a while before I understood I was watching her with my own eyes open. I couldn't speak yet. The tube had just come out the day before, and my throat felt like I had swallowed a fistful of gravel. But I could hear perfectly. My sister was in the hallway outside my room. She was on her phone. I heard her say the word transfer, and then she laughed a little, a short tight laugh, and said, "No, she has no idea." I closed my eyes. I did not let her see that I was awake. I stayed that way for 27 hours. This is the part people find hard to believe, but it wasn't a strategy yet. It was survival instinct. Something in me said, "Wait, listen first." So I listened. Over those 27 hours, I learned the following things. My sister had been granted emergency medical power of attorney the day I went in. That was legitimate. She was my contact. She was family. That's how it works. What isn't how it works is everything she did with it. She told my building management company that I had been declared medically incapacitated and was as unlikely to return to independent living. She had my condo listed with a real estate agent within 10 days of my hospitalization. She liquidated the investments in my brokerage account using documents she had a notary push through under the medical POA, which, in Oregon, does not legally extend to financial decisions without a separate durable financial power of attorney that I had never signed. She also contacted my father, who has been largely absent since I was 19, and together they began the process of claiming I had no surviving estate plan, and that my assets should default to next of kin. I had an estate plan. I had a will, a healthcare directive, and a separate financial POA assigned to my attorney, a woman named Rebecca, who my sister apparently decided not to call, because calling the actual legal contact would have ended the whole scheme in about 4 minutes. The fundraiser was what broke something open in me. On day 11 of my hospitalization, my sister posted a video on Facebook from my living room in my condo, which was already listed for sale, and she was crying beautifully, the way some people can just turn tears on like a faucet, and she said that I had no health insurance through my employer, and that the medical bills were going to be catastrophic. She said the family was trying to hold things together. She said any support would mean the world. I had excellent health insurance. I had paid $412 a month for it since I was 26 because I worked in finance and understood what a hospital stay costs without it. My out-of-pocket maximum for the year was $6,200. The fundraiser raised over $90,000 in 11 days. I found all of this out from a hospital social worker who came to check on me after I finally opened my eyes on purpose and asked for my phone. She was young, maybe 25, and she looked genuinely pained when I asked if there was any fundraising happening on my behalf. She pulled it up on her tablet and showed me. She didn't say anything while I read it. She didn't need to. I thanked her. I asked her to close the door on her way out, and then I sat in that hospital bed with the pulse monitor beeping, and I did not cry. There was no crying left in me. There was only this cold, clear, very quiet understanding of what needed to happen next. The condo I'll come back to. But first, the storage unit. When I moved to Portland, I rented a storage unit in my building's basement the same month I signed my lease. 12 by 10 feet, climate controlled. My name on the lease, paid annually, with auto renewal. It was below the parking garage, accessible only by keycard, and on the original floor plan it was labeled simply as Utility B. My next-door neighbor had lived in the building for 9 years and didn't know it existed. I am a forensic accountant. My entire job is finding money that people tried to make disappear. I have worked cases involving embezzlement, estate fraud, insurance schemes, and one particularly elaborate situation involving a man who convinced 4 different women in 3 different states that he was a widower. I am professionally trained to understand how people steal from people they're supposed to love, and I made the decision early in my career that if something ever happened to me, I was going to be harder to steal from than the average person. Inside that storage unit, a fireproof filing cabinet containing original copies of my will, my financial POA, my healthcare directive, my brokerage statements, 3 years of tax returns, and the deed to a piece of land in rural Washington that I had purchased under an LLC that bore no version of my name. A waterproof case holding 2 external hard drives, one with encrypted backups of every financial account I owned, and one running continuous backup from the security cameras I had installed in my condo. A sealed envelope I had prepared 4 years earlier labeled, "In the event of incapacity," containing a letter to my attorney, a letter to a forensic investigator colleague I trusted, and a handwritten instruction sheet for both of them. My sister didn't know any of this. She had lived with me twice, once for a summer in my 20s and once for 10 days the year before when her husband was out of town for work, and in all of that time, she had never once asked about the storage unit. It was listed on my lease as an amenity. She just never asked. I was discharged 23 days after I first opened my eyes. I had spent that time being very quiet and very cooperative and very, very sick looking, which was not difficult because I had just spent 6 weeks attached to machines and I still got winded walking to the bathroom. My sister visited 4 times during those 23 days. She brought flowers twice, and a book I would never read once, and she sat next to my bed and held my hand and asked me how I was feeling. And I told her tired, I'm so tired, and that was the most honest thing I said to her during any of those visits. On the 3rd visit, she mentioned the condo. Gently, the way you gentle someone when you're managing them. "I want you to know I've been handling things," she said. "I didn't want you to stress." "The condo?" I said. I made my voice weak. It wasn't hard. "We can talk about it when you're stronger." She squeezed my hand. "I trust you," I said. She smiled at me and I watched something relax in her face that told me everything I needed to know. The night before I was discharged, I used my phone to contact Rebecca, my actual attorney. I sent her a single text. "Call me on a blocked number tomorrow at 7 a.m. Don't use my name if you leave a voicemail, it's urgent." Rebecca has known me for 6 years. She called at 7:01. We talked for 40 minutes. By the end of that call, she had a full picture of what had happened, copies of everything I had photographed from my own hospital file, and a plan. Step 1. Do not confront my sister yet. Step 2. Retrieve the contents of the storage unit before she discovers it exists. Step 3. Document everything, in the order it happened with timestamps. Step 4. Let her believe she has won until the moment it becomes legally useful for her to understand that she has not. I went home, back to my condo, which was technically under contract to close in 11 days, under the pretense of gathering personal items. My sister offered to come with me. I told her I needed some time alone in my space, and she looked sympathetic and said, of course, take all the time you need. I took 2 hours. I went straight to the basement. I used my key card. The storage unit was exactly as I'd left it. I won't pretend I was calm in there. I sat down on the floor next to the filing cabinet, and I put my hand on the sealed envelope, and I thought about the version of me who had prepared it, the 30-year-old, sitting at her kitchen table on a Sunday afternoon, thinking, I hope I never need this. I felt something toward her that I can only describe as gratitude. She had been careful when she didn't have to be, and that carelessness she avoided was the only reason I was sitting on a storage room floor instead of having nothing left. I took the filing cabinet contents. I took both hard drives. I took the sealed envelope. I took 3 other items I had nearly forgotten about. A notarized letter from my grandmother, who passed 2 years ago, stating her specific wishes regarding a savings bond series she had put in my name in the 90s. Bonds my sister had apparently already attempted to locate through the Treasury Department using a request filed under my medical POA. That was the detail that upgraded everything from civil fraud to criminal territory. Federal savings bonds. A federal form filed fraudulently under a medical POA that did not authorize financial transactions. Rebecca's eyes went very wide when I showed her that one. The condo closed. I let it close. I know that sounds like surrender, but it wasn't. The closing created a paper trail that locked in every timestamp, every transfer, every document my sister had filed. You can't unring that bell. And the buyer, who was a quiet retired engineer named Frank, who just wanted somewhere his daughter could stay when she visited, had nothing to do with any of it. I was not going to blow up his purchase over something that could be handled in court. What happened in court? Rebecca filed the suit on a Wednesday morning. Fraudulent conversion of financial assets, breach of fiduciary duty under emergency medical POA, fraudulent misrepresentation in an online fundraising campaign, and illegal redemption requests for federally issued savings instruments. The fundraising fraud, because it crossed state lines through the platform, had already been flagged to the FBI by the time we filed. That was not something we arranged. It was the natural consequence of raising $90,000 under documented false pretenses and then spending it on a bathroom renovation and a car. My sister called me the evening after she was served. She was not crying beautifully this time. What is this? She said. Not a question. The flat affect of someone whose story is collapsing. You know what it is, I said. I was trying to help you. You were in a coma, June. Someone had to make decisions. You made a decision about the savings bonds, I said. That's a federal form. That's not a decision someone makes to help. Silence. I was going to pay you back, she said finally, and I think she might have believed it. I know you think that, I said, and I hung up. The hearing was not dramatic. It was documents, timestamps, bank statements, and a fundraising platform's internal records showing disbursement of funds into an account that was not a medical expense account and had never paid a single dollar to Providence Portland Medical Center. The judge was efficient. She did not seem particularly surprised by any of it. The ruling: full financial restitution of the liquidated brokerage assets plus interest, restitution of the savings bond value, return of the fundraised amount, minus what had already been spent with a civil judgment for the remainder. My sister's husband, who had co-signed 2 of the transfer documents, was included in the civil judgment. The criminal referral for the federal savings bond fraud was already in process before the civil hearing ended. My father called me after. He had been a peripheral figure in all of this, not a primary actor, but present in some of the early conversations my security camera had captured. He didn't get a judgment against him. He got a letter from Rebecca explaining what had been documented and what could be filed if he contacted me again. He did not contact me again. This is the part I think about when I can't sleep, which is still, most nights, because something that nearly kills you doesn't just leave when you leave the hospital. I think about what my sister thought when she posted that video. Whether she told herself it was temporary, that she would sort it out later, that I owed her something, and this was just a way of collecting early. I wonder if she had a number in her head, a point at which she planned to stop. I don't think I'll ever know. I don't think she knows either. People ask me if I feel guilty. About pressing charges, about the criminal referral, about the fact that my niece and nephew are growing up with a mother who has a pending federal fraud case and a civil judgment that will take years to satisfy. I sit with that question. I don't have a clean answer. What I have is this. I almost died. And while I was almost dying, someone who knew me better than almost anyone decided that was a good time to take everything I had spent a decade building. The children are not responsible for that, my sister is. Those are two different things, and collapsing them together is exactly the kind of emotional logic that lets people like her keep doing what she did. The condo sold to Frank. I found a rental in the same neighborhood while I look for something to buy. I'm working from home still. My cardiologist wants another 6 months before I go back to the office full-time, and honestly, the quiet suits me right now. Rebecca is handling the remaining proceedings. The savings bond fraud is in federal hands and out of mine. The storage unit is still there. I renewed the lease. I moved the hard drives to a better case. I updated the sealed envelope. I added a section I didn't have before. A detailed record of what happened, dated, signed, notarized, with a copy of every court document stapled to the back, not because I expect it to happen again, but because I know something now that I didn't know 8 weeks ago. Being careful is not paranoia. It is not pessimism. It is not a failure to trust. It is just the acknowledgement that you are the only person guaranteed to be there every single time it matters. I keep the storage unit key on my keychain now, instead of in a drawer. A small thing, a reminder. The lock still clicks open exactly the same way it always did, quiet and clean, like nothing that happened since the last time I stood here has changed what is in here waiting for me. That's the thing about being prepared. Nobody can take it away if they don't know it exists.